Welcome to Content and Conversations, the podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners that want to prioritize connection and relationship as the primary tool to drive sales. Content and conversations are the two most powerful tools you have to attract the most amazing clients, build solid relationships, and sell more stuff. From sales, marketing, energy, and mindset, we'll discuss everything you need to hit your goals, make more money, and have more fun in your business. Let's go.
Hello, and welcome back to Content and Conversations, where today's topic is, I tried that and it didn't work. I had a really awesome opportunity to take part in a summit with a client of ours, a friend of mine, and she asked me a really excellent question. What do you say to people who have tried social selling, selling in the DMs, sell by chat, whatever the hell you want to call it? They have tried that and they say, I tried it and it didn't work. What are the reasons why it may or may not have worked? And what do you recommend that they do instead? So I thought that was a really excellent question. And so I wrote down my answer, because if you guys don't know this about me, sometimes I answer questions and I don't really know what I said, but I wrote down the answer and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect opportunity or the perfect podcast topic for content and conversation. So here I am talking about, if you have tried selling in the DMs, sell by chat, social selling, whatever you want to call it. To me, it is all the same thing. It is when we are connecting with people via Messenger on social media. I also want to be clear that the methodology and the strategies that we teach here at the Connection Agency are actually methodologies and strategies that can work across any platform. I just happen to use social media as our primary connection tool because I am in a season of life where I enjoy not having to leave the house. But what we teach you, or what I teach you about connection, what I teach you about relationship building, what I teach you about sales and marketing and connecting with people and sales psychology, and all of those different things are absolutely positively tools and strategies and tactics that can be used on literally any platform, So email, phone, in person, right? So I just want to be clear on that. So what happens when somebody says, I tried this and it didn't work? So the first thing that I like to look at when a client comes to us and says, hey, I've been playing in the DMs, I've been trying to grow my audience in the DMs, it's just not working for me. The first thing I look at is their messaging, right? The number one reason most people's sales and marketing doesn't work is because their messaging is off. They are not actually speaking to their ideal client in a way that is compelling or interesting. And I hate to say that, and I don't say it to be mean, but it is the God's honest truth. Most marketing out there today is boring. It is bad, and everybody sounds the same. You can scroll through Instagram, you can scroll through TikTok, you can scroll through Facebook, you can scroll through LinkedIn, and everybody is saying the same damn thing. So for most people, it just isn't good. And if the messaging isn't good, people aren't going to respond to it, right? But when we're talking about very specifically in the DMs, what that looks like, feels like, sounds like, most people, their messaging is just, it's not relevant. It's assumptive. Some people just wind up getting, way too salesy. Some people wind up being a little pitchy. Some people wind up with messages that are just way too long. So if what you're saying is not relevant to the person that you are saying it to, it is not going to work. So oftentimes I find it's a messaging issue. Sometimes we're messaging the wrong people, right? Like I wind up talking to some clients where I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's not it. Your problem is you're talking to entirely the wrong people, or whatever the case may be. But the number one reason why it did not work is because your messaging is not compelling, is not interesting, is not thought-provoking. Or this is another one I see in messaging that's really bad. A lot of people send very assumptive messages. So when people are doing outreach on social media, most of the messages in my inbox, people are making a lot of assumptions. So they will invite me to their Facebook group and say, hey, this is for people who want to lose 50 pounds or more, right? Assuming that I want to lose 50 pounds or more, but you don't know a damn thing about me, whether or not I want to lose 50 pounds or more. Or people that say, hey, come, join our Facebook group to learn how to live launch, right? And I'm like, I don't want to learn how to live launch, right? So a lot of people will get into messages or use messaging that is just really irrelevant to their ideal client. And so it doesn't matter how, what system you use or how good it is. If the message isn't relevant, if it's not the right person and the right message, right? It just doesn't connect. It's not going to work. It doesn't matter what you do or how much of it that you do, right? So messaging is so important. So you want to make sure that when you are sending messages to people on the internet, that message is well written, that it is relevant, and that the person who is receiving it is actually the right person to be receiving it. So if you're not doing those things, then it's not going to work. It doesn't matter the strategy, but no strategy will work if that is off, right? So this is not specific to DMs or outreach or anything like that. Like no strategy is is going to work if your messaging isn't relevant, which is why sales messaging is so darn important, why understanding your ideal client and why they buy and their beliefs and the symptoms of their problems and what's keeping them up at night and all of those different things are so relevant and important, because everything is going to fall flat if you cannot speak to it, right? Whether it's your DMs, whether it's your podcast, whether it's your YouTube channel, your emails, your social media content, your reels, your TikTok, none of it is going to be effective if your messaging is bad. I'm sorry, not sorry, right? That is one reason people will tell me, I tried outreach, I tried playing in the DMs, I tried to sell in the DMs and it did not work. And when I look at their messages, I can instantly tell you why it did not work. And it's because the message is bad, right? The second reason that it isn't working is because of the volume, right? For some reason, somebody somewhere painted social selling or outbound as this different tool that had different conversion rates than other tools, right? So most of us know when you run ads, you're expecting a 1 to 3% conversion rate, right? That's what we expect. When we run ads to cold traffic, we expect a 1 to 3% conversion rate. And then we expect a much higher conversion rate from our DM outreach, right? And it's a little bit higher, but it's not a lot higher. It's still cold, right? Yes, it's more personal, and all of those different things. Yes, we can be more selective of who we work with, but 1 to 3% in ads is maybe 5 to 7% in outreach. So most people aren't doing enough volume, right? The reason that ads are effective is because you get thousands and thousands of impressions to get a handful of people to download your thing, join your opt-in, do whatever it is that the ads are doing, right? But we want to send 10 DMs on social media and we don't understand why it doesn't work, right? So really, to have an effective outbound strategy, you have to be doing it at scale. You have to be doing a high enough volume to be successful. And most people just aren't, they're simply not doing that. Like they're just grossly underestimating the volume that it takes, the amount of testing that it takes. And I'm really candid about this with our clients. Like we love outreach. Outreach has been wildly successful for us. I've made millions of dollars doing outreach. I believe in it in my entire heart and soul. But I will tell you that it still takes time to test and to tweak and to try things out to be effective. And so most people, they think it's this magic bullet. They think it's this thing that's going to work for them overnight. So they don't have enough volume. They don't do any testing. They don't do any tweaking. And they're like, I tried it, didn't work, right? But again, if you were to run ads, you would test and you would tweak and you would tweak your funnel and you would tweak your hooks and you would tweak your ad copy and you would tweak your creative and you would tweak your landing page, right? But for some reason, when it comes to outreach, we're like, this shit's just supposed to work on the first try. I don't understand. Well, no, that's not the way that it works. So the volume has to be there for us to even be effective, right? So I like to tell our clients inside of the agency, we don't even change a message, an outbound message, until we've sent at least 100 messages. Until we have contacted 100 people, I'm not willing to change it, right? So if you're sending 5 messages a day, it's frankly going to take you 20 days to reach 100 people to even tell if it's working. And most people don't have the stamina to show up and do something that's not working. So that's why it does not work for them. So I just want to be really candid with you about this. That's why we recommend sending 20 or 30 messages a day. So we know within 3 or 4 days whether or not our messaging needs to be tweaked, because most people, frankly, do not have the patience to hang in there any longer than that to be effective, right? So that's something that's really important. So the first reason most people say they try it, didn't work, their messaging sucks. The second is people aren't doing it at a big enough volume. They're not doing it at scale in a way that's actually allowing them to see, does this work? Does this not work? What are my tweaks? What changes do I need to make? The third reason is alignment, right? It has to feel aligned. So again, I believe in outreach. It's what I do. It's what we teach: audience building, community building, lead generation, call it what you want to call it, whole heart, right? But if you don't believe that, if that's not true to you, if you don't like it, it's not going to work for you. It's like saying, hey, you know what? You want to lose 20 pounds and you have to only eat chicken and broccoli to lose 20 pounds, right? You might be able to white knuckle it for a little while, but if chicken and broccoli makes you want to vomit, like you're never going to be successful losing weight on chicken and broccoli, right? So just because somebody else had success losing weight on chicken and broccoli and you hate chicken and broccoli ain't going to work for you, right? It's the same thing with anything else we do in our business, right? This is why we don't generally teach blueprints, right? We give our clients a lot of autonomy to work within, their boundaries and their alignment and what feels really good to them. But if this strategy does not align with you, if you don't like this strategy, if you would rather shove sharp things in your eyes than actually talk to people on the internet, then this is not going to work for you. But so many people are so desperately looking for a solution that they are willing to try anything and to do things that are completely out of alignment, things that they do not like, things that they do not feel good, and then they don't understand why it doesn't work for them. The reason why my team is so good at this, the reason why I am so good at this is because I genuinely fucking love it. I like talking to people. I like building relationships. I like solving problems. It's genuinely what I enjoy doing. So of course it works for me. But if you don't like those things, then this strategy is not for you. It is simply not. I know there's not a lot of people that will tell you that because they just want you to buy their shit. Do not buy my shit if you do not think it is in alignment with you, because it's not going to work and you're going to be pissed off at me anyway. So for a lot of people, and I saw this a lot in the live launch days, where people would join programs and learn how to live launch and then come to find out they don't fucking like live video. Like, why on God's green earth are you in a program that teaches live launching, but you don't like live video? Well, because somebody promised me it would work. Why? Right? There's billions, literally, like just so many different ways to grow an audience. There's so many different ways to be successful. There's so many different ways to do this. Like, there's no reason to ever do anything in your business that you do not genuinely like doing, right? And I don't mean like there's tough days, right? We have to have tough conversations. Some days we just don't feel like it, but like day in and day out, there's no reason to ever deploy a strategy consistently in your business that is not aligned with you, because it's never going to fucking work anyway. It's just going to make it harder, right? So the third reason why this doesn't work for people is alignment, right? And then the fourth one is time. And this somewhat goes into volume, but a lot of people underestimate the amount of time that it is going to take to actually do this. Because again, it has been sold as a magic bullet, right? Here's this magic bullet and it's going to happen overnight. Like, it is a lot of time and effort and energy. We actually have a client. He's a weight loss client. He's a chiropractor. He has like this entire weight loss program that he does, right? And I remember, we're like 6 weeks into his program and he's like, hey guys, this feels like this is a lot of work. And I'm like, yeah. Right? Just like when your clients come to you and they've been eating perfectly for 2 weeks and they haven't lost 50 pounds, and like, dude, this is a lot of work. Like, yeah, it's a lot of work and it takes time to be effective and it takes time to actually deploy, right? I mean, we're really lucky. Connect Chat is our social sales, our social media prospecting and sell by chat tool that saves us just tons and tons and tons of time, like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of time saved by having access to this tool. But still, at the end of the day, like, if you're not paying us to do it for you, somebody still has to log in every day and send the friend request, send the connection request, follow the people, engage with the people, start the conversations. It takes time to do this. And a lot of people aren't willing to carve out the time to do this. A lot of people would like to complain that they're not making any money, but they're not willing to take the time to do this. So when, again, people come to me and say, I tried this before, I'm like, cool, how much time do you have allocated per day to do this? And they're like, yeah, like 30 minutes. And again, you can eventually get to the point where you can move very quickly. Again, if you're using our software, if you have somebody qualifying your leads for you and all you have to do is like sit down in front of your computer and send your DMs, you can easily do this in an hour a day, right? I tested it before we ever launched a done for you offer. I actually tested how long it would take me to do it, because I just, A, wanted to know how long it was going to take my team to do it. B, also just to be realistic with people about the amount of time and energy we were spending on this. So I know that it can be done, but the setup is arduous and it takes time. And so most people are, again, impatient and they want a magic bullet and they needed it to work yesterday. And so they're frustrated that it's not happening overnight. And so they give up before it actually comes to fruition. And I'm sure I've talked about this meme before on the podcast, but I'm bringing it up again. We've all seen that meme with the guy with the pick and he's like digging for gold. And in the meme, you can tell that he's like 4 feet away from the gold and he's taken his pickaxe and he's gone home. Like, that's what most people do when it comes to actually like audience building and building relationships, right? They get like 4 feet away from gold and they turn around and go home because they forget the compound effect of their efforts, right? Social selling, audience building, relationship building is all about this compound effect of every single day. Like, your efforts are just compounding on top of one another, right? You're inviting new people in, you're starting new conversations, you're following up on those conversations yesterday, and you're building this great, big, beautiful snowball, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every single day. And eventually the snowball, bears fruit. I don't think snowballs bear fruit, but mixing my analogies, but you know what I mean, right? Eventually the snowball gets big enough that it actually starts to produce sales calls, and it actually starts to produce sales, and it actually starts to produce real relationships and opportunities and speaking opportunities and podcasts and guest expert trainings. Like, it starts to actually come to fruition. But the problem is most people aren't willing to stay dedicated and focused long enough to actually see that result. And so that is why we actually even just changed our entire model. We had like a setup and then like this ongoing monthly, like all of my clients, just so you know, if you want our community builder program, it is a 90-day commitment. It is a 90-day commitment because this takes time. So for me to tell you that I can work for you for 30 days and get you the results that you want, that's not true, because it's the compound effect of what happens here. And again, very similar to running ads. When you run ads, it is a compound effect. The more that they tweak your ads and the more that they test your ads and the more, results that your ads get, your ad cost goes down, 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 right? So on day one, your ad cost might be $16 per lead. And on day two, it's 12. And by day 90, you're getting leads for $6. Right. The problem is most people get nervous when their leads are $8 or $9 and they pull their money out. Right. It's the exact same thing. It is the exact same thing, but it is like, and I love equating sales and marketing to diet and exercise. Right. And I know that triggers some people and I'm sorry, but it's just the most realistic. Like, it takes time to see results. It takes time to see results. If you do not have an existing audience, if you have not been talking to that audience, if you have not been selling to that audience consistently, and you wanted to start today to do that, it's going to take you a solid 90 days to see results, period, end of story. But most people cannot stay focused long enough, I mean, myself included, right? Like, my mentor literally just called me on my shit last week and was like, why don't you just pick one thing and stick to it? And I'm like, well, shit, I really have not been doing that. So this is not me judging you by any, stretch of the imagination, but really picking one thing and owning that one thing for long enough for it to be successful is a skill. It's a skill, and it's one that unfortunately not a lot of us have. So when somebody comes to me and they say, I have tried these things and they didn't work, those are the 4 things I am looking at. What was your messaging? Was it any good? Did you actually put in enough volume to test and tweak in any way, shape, and form? Is this an aligned strategy that you even like doing? And then how much time did you actually give it to work? And if you really look at those 4 things, you can probably figure out why it didn't work for you. You can probably figure out why it did not work for you. And if you're like, I love it, but I don't want to do it, that's what we do. So if you need our help, feel free to reach out. See you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to Content and Conversations. If this was helpful for you, I would love if you would follow along, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. And we'll see you next week.